Welcome, one and all, to Layer Lines, Conscious Connections, and conversations with incredible people that are doing just magnificent things for humanity. I have on board with us today a magical woman. She creates magic, and I'm astounded with you and what you are creating in this world at the moment and what is still to come for you as well. This is Melissa Lee. She is from Tribe 11 Art. I love the name. And I just want to welcome you here now. And thank you so much for being here and accepting this impromptu talk on the podcast.
Thank you. Very impromptu. Yeah, I'll just follow your lead as we've talked about from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are we going?
So we're going to go in all sorts of directions today, and it's interesting because I want everybody to know exactly what Melissa does. I haven't known Melissa for very long, but we have had a real connection piece that just happened to happen. Melissa went on a retreat last year with Tracy McMahon, and whilst she was there, and I'm sure you've been doing this for longer than that, but she started to really connect into getting into her creative. So Mel's got a normal, everyday human job, but then there is also this extremely magical side to her. And I got to see a piece of artwork that she did at this retreat that they ended up working with called The Portal. And something inside me moved. So I saw the picture, I saw the mandala, and I actually felt physical movement going on within me, within my energy centers. And I went, what the heck is this? And through a series of unusual events, I was given behind me this beautiful drum. And all of a sudden, I felt so called that Melissa's artwork needed to be on this drum. But the story gets deeper. And it's no coincidence that this drum ended up in Melissa's hands. So, do you want to go and elaborate on how this whole drum thing happened and how we ended up with the magic that is my light language drum behind me?
Yes, it has been. I'm following along while you're telling the story. It has been. It has been for me personally a real whirlwind, and I guess to go back to where it started for me, I I've always been an artist. I've always done art and I've always been really connected with that. But through as things happen, sudden sharp life turn, I ended up going to the 11/11 retreat last year. So 11/11 with Tracy McMahon. 11/11 is also my birthday, so it was very poetic, and it's very much a portal and a gateway, and it's something that I've always really deeply connected with, which is where that 11 comes through in Tribe. So something, as you said, was really unlocked as I've stepped in through that retreat, and I've picked up working very quickly with Tracy from there. As far as how I got from that very first mandala, which was the 31st of December, it hasn't even been 12 months, to get from there to the work that Sammy and I, that we've just done together. It's phenomenal. That'll be another talk, actually, for the elements of business. But the piece of Sammy's, now I can't recall how the drum landed in your hands. I just recalled that you had been, am I missing anything pivotal? I know that you had received the drum as a
It was a
thank
gift from
you.
Tracy. Gift
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Tracy. Yeah.
gift from Tracy. And you were called to have the, I don't know, call it artwork because I haven't quite landed on what the terminology is, but the piece, so the energy work that came through. And from that point, time doesn't feel quite linear. So I'm sure that it was a few months. It's usually 2 or 3 months. But I guess, do we go into the journey of what's happened from that energy exchange?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So from my perspective, and I know Sammy and I were both still, I think there'll still be little tidbits and breadcrumbs that we pick up as we go from what the experience has been for both of us. But very, very intuitive. And from the time that we'd agreed, or we'd had that energetic agreement to do that work, that piece together. Tammy, you'd said that it's ready whenever you are, and I wasn't ready for quite some time, because that's not the way that I guess the energies come through. But from that moment in the background when I came home, um, I started to get some really strong, which I know we've talked about, but some really strong energies and visuals, and there's some conversations at times that go along back and forth, which was all to bring down that energy to come and to open up that portal for you on that drum piece. I feel like this could be a podcast on its own, your drum.
I think it could. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What direction do you want to take that in for me now?
Well, it's interesting because I think about, I think I had gone overseas, and all of a sudden, oh no, maybe I was still here, but all of a sudden on Instagram, I see my drum and it's in ceremony. So I'm thinking, what is going on here? And it was so exciting. I mean, I do ceremony, and I thought, but this drum is actually going through some sort of ceremony. So with that ceremony, you ended up using essential oils. What else did you use? I can't remember exactly. And you know the oils that you used as well.
I do know the oils that I use, but I will have to, I can't give them to you specifically. A couple I can,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's very much a channeling. It'll come through and it's gone, and I'm just as surprised as everyone else when we get to the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But the drum, in from that journey I've had with that drum, I just knew when it was the right time to work with, for me to go and collect the drum. I think you were away at that point.
That's right. It was
And the
at
reason
Tracy's.
yeah, the reason I bring that up is it was just on the verge of, I think we were within 48 hours of Astara, or we were coming up to that point. So astrologically, while I could have picked up that drum a month or 6 weeks or whatnot beforehand, it wasn't meant to be worked on. It wasn't meant to come through in that period. So as we came into Ostara, which was that the ceremony falls, it needed to be out there in the moon. So that was Ostara. So that was the opening ceremony, which is what I call the opening of that creation portal. So that's when that starts to really become that sacred space between the drum and I. Will work until that's all closed off and sealed. So with the ceremony, it is always we have our essentials, right? Like I have my my rattle, my wand, which
Oh,
again,
yes.
podcast of his own, her own.
Yes. Yes.
Um, here we go. There are some really spectacular photos that are about to go up, actually, from Amanda. I can't pronounce her name. Of the one.
Beautiful Amanda.
This
Yes.
the beautiful Amanda. This is Medusa, and Medusa, safe to say, is a very powerful tool. We could call Medusa a wand, but it's much more than that. So the wand, and I, the wand comes with me to not all ceremonies, but she will always hold a certain space in ceremony. I call in my crystals, the essential oils. Again, it could be one, could be five. It's that intuitive, whatever feels right. It really does. sometimes it's not the one I want, or it's not the one I had in mind, but that's what we work with. What else am I forgetting? I think that's
I
really the
think
key
that's
things.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will actually post up the video of my drum in ceremony. And it was weird because there was a part of me that almost felt like I was in ceremony as well when I was watching it. It was like a piece of me was there. And that's where Melissa's magic and her medicine start to weave in with everything that she does. Because all of a sudden, Melissa and I, it wasn't just the drum that was connecting or she was connecting to. It was Melissa was actually syncing with me. And I was away overseas by then. And there was physical things happening to me throughout because I went over there and I went in a time where every year I come up with a particular trauma that has been sort of weighing over my mind since I was about 18, 19 years old. But while I was away, I decided this time around I was going to shed this old story, which we should be doing all the time. We should be getting rid of our stories all of the time. Meanwhile, poor old Melissa's back in Australia, and she's feeling all the feels with what's going on and thinking, what is happening here? So is this normal when you're doing your artwork that you go and connect to the person that you're actually doing the artwork for or doing the energy infused work with?
Absolutely, and that's the core of that. That's the only reason the work exists, because the work is a visual representation of the energy. It's like somatics. I love to use this example. It's like how somatics, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's that study of this sound made visible, where
Mhm.
putting the sand or whatever it is on
Yes,
the
or
metal plate.
water, or
Oh, one of my
mm,
fave. I will never ever get sick of it. I absolutely love it. And I think one of the things that really fascinates me more and more is I guess it maybe not in our circles, but everyday society, it's fairly bonkers. Like, what? Like, no way, surely not. The everyday person would have trouble if you're not familiar with that, just understanding that that's just nature, that's just how it works. And just because we can't see sound, like it's a new thing, it's one of those hippie things, one of those new things, but it's science. And the thing that's really fascinating for me is that it's always been there, just because we couldn't see it. And I feel that this is what we all know. We'll see more and more of this as we go through, and that's essentially the work that comes through me. I don't know what it will look like, which sounds out there. I don't give it any thought. It's just not planned. I build a grid and it will lay itself down according to whatever the energy's there, whatever I'm connecting with. And to me, it's like cymatics of the human. It's your
yeah.
frequency, it's your body's song, and I make jokes about it, but there are people, I'm sure, I mean, each to their own. People do put the nodes or whatever on mushrooms and trees and listen. Have you
Yeah,
seen this?
I have
Yeah.
seen it. I love it.
And I've seen a concert that someone held a concert like under a tree, and it was just fascinating. But that's a wacky idea. It's becoming more and more normal, but the accelerated rate that we're in. So that's how I see the work that comes through me. It's that visual. It's not, I mean, yes, it's deeply spiritual, but it has just a really, what is it, quantum physics
Yeah, and
foundation.
I've watched you doing your work like right from the beginning. You have posted videos of you in the midst of making one of your beautiful infused uh, works of art, and just watching you, and it looks so natural and flowy, but obviously it's all getting filtered in and channeled into you, that this is exactly what needs to be there for each and every person. And I mean, of course, none of your works are the same. You will never see another one of these. And this, I'll talk about, I'll talk about her a little bit later, but which is so unique. What you do is so unique. And yeah, you can go to the markets and go and get yourself a $10 mandala that's been reproduced 200 times, and that's a really, really nice mandala. But this is different because this is actual filtered energy, filtered somatics moving through a human being and then being translated onto a piece of canvas, a piece of paper, a drum, etc., which holds magic, holds energy, holds life force. This is what I am feeling from this piece that I am working with at the moment. So let's go into a bit of life force energy work. So we'll use my darling as an example. During the creation of her, and she actually had a lot of masculine energy at one stage, but is definitely a she now. And you'll hear me, I talk about oils as if they're he and she as well. We, as I said before, we started to interconnect. So Melissa started to feel her back went out. And amazingly, at the same time, my back went out. Some of the other things you felt, we've talked about, and I'm happy for you to be very, very open about it. Do you want to talk about the feelings that you felt during this? Here you go, getting to see me through Melissa.
Definitely, thank you. And again, I still learn a little bit more. You wouldn't even know this, Sammy, but I jumped on to there was a live a couple of days ago. It was one of the groups, and it was an oil. It was in the daytime, and I was listening, and it was a comment. I was on the live. It was something that you'd said during that, and as I listened, I'm like, that was. I've got a message of me writing those almost exact word for word, which
Oh,
we haven't talked
wow.
about, but yeah, and this is where it's been really, really crucial. Obviously, none of this has happened without having a mentor, but to have that mentoring space and community to be able, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be learning all of this and putting it all
Mm,
together. And it was, from my point of view, it was just simply I was walking into work. I work at the hospital, as one example, and this I at that point was definitely not consciously aware that there was. I didn't know I'm connecting. That's not, where I'm meaning to do. But I messaged Tracy because it just felt so unusual. I was walking into the door and I felt like the words that you said, I think, Sammy, were along the lines of, sometimes I just want to stop and, get off or stop things or just have a break or stopping time, essentially. And I was sent a message to Tracy just saying, like, it almost came over me like a panic, but it wasn't a panic. It was just this real sense of, um, I don't feel like I'm in my own body. I feel like I'm not, like I'm totally detached. And it was quite sort of frightening and shocking. And then as I messaged Tracy, and Tracy's messaged me, and I think you must have messaged her on about or at the same time a similar message, because she's like, she didn't tell me anything. She just said, that's not you. It's not you that you're feeling, mate. And I'm like, internally, I'm like, I'm really not feeling right. Like something's just really wrong. It was just very, very unfamiliar. And with my back, I mean, yeah, I have had my back go out before, learning a bit more about where that might come in. But the reason that was so specific and unusual between you and I, Sammy, was there's no warning signs. I mean, you know when your back's about, tight or whatever, and absolutely, absolutely fine. There'd been nothing going on. And as I walked into work, I walked into a particular zone. I think I went to stand up or sit down, and my back's just completely gone. And I thought, oh my God. And it was like that for probably, I don't know, about 3 days or something.
And that's how long my back was out.
Yeah, and I messaged Trace, was like, oh, my back's gone. Like, I think I couldn't do a call or something. So it was just me saying, I'm not sure. This is happening. She's like almost laughing, going, this isn't you. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like it's me. It definitely feels like it's me. And yeah, as we've talked, Sammy, so many specifics. I know with the grief that I will touch on that you brought up.
Yeah.
I had a really intense experience, which for me that is now something that I've lived. So that's now, it doesn't belong to me, but it was crippling, like brought me to my knees grief, and it was a grief like I have been fortunate in life so far. I haven't had to deal with those just crushing close losses, and the mother and the son and those really maternal sort of bonds. But that came on, and it was a Tuesday now. I do remember that clearly, but I had walked in the door, and I would have been within 20 minutes, I think half an hour. No rhyme or reason, but I just had this, those womanly waves of emotion, and I'm like, what is it? And it was that real intense, brought me almost to my knees kind of grief, and I was just sobbing. And I knew that by that point I started to connect, like, is this the work? So I allowed it, and I noticed when I did that, it did come in a lot more like a tornado, like it swept in and out a lot quicker. So that was helpful. Yeah, and so I as I was in the middle of it, I know we've talked about, I messaged my mentor, Coach Tracy, to say, look, I am in some really intense work right now. It's just come on really quickly. I've got like tears. I'm choking on my own tears. It's just, it came, and it was in the middle of it. Like, I'm not going to be able to make the call tonight. Like, I need to just kind of honor this and stay where it is, and I'll catch up. And she's messaged back. She's like, the call's tomorrow, buddy. It's Tuesday. And I'm like, why did I think it was like, I know this. I know it's Tuesday. Like, I walked in the door and it's Tuesday. And so these two things were coexisting. And as I've got off the call, I'm like, as I said to you, Sammy, like, I lost a day. And
Yeah.
it was just like, I don't know what, I walked in the door, I reckon half an hour. I'm thinking it's Wednesday. I've just so
Yeah.
much, and I felt it. I feel that shift leave. Oh,
Yes.
I just got goosebumps everywhere then. Oh,
Yeah, and the interesting thing was overseas in Athens, I got really, really bad food poisoning, and I told Tracy, I told Melissa when we had our call, because Melissa actually writes down and documents the feelings that she has throughout. She documents anything really significant because it all filters onto the work that she does. And I said to her in the call, when she said felt like she lost a day, we flew from Athens in the morning at 5:30 to Geneva, and I spent the whole day in bed in Switzerland. And I said to Melissa, my exact words were, I lost a whole day. And she was like, get out of here. So we were so in sync. Now, like I just said, all of these things, all of these experiences, these emotions that are going through you are all energy that's creating the somatics, which
mm.
create this marvel. So you're working with this energy. It must be so intense for you. And is there ever times where you get up in the middle of the night and you're like, no, I have to go and do this right now. I feel this, so I've got to go and put it onto the piece of canvas?
No, I know I don't have that experience. But I also never. I'm in such a place of trust. It was a decision going into this from the very second mandala that I did. Um, but no, I don't, and because I feel it. So it's not that it's a design that's going to, I have to get it out. it will shift and move, you know, the tide. So I just trust that by the time I get down to bring that image through, it's exactly the right frequency. You know, it's like we talk about pendulums, or it's pendulums. I haven't done much pendulum work, but we talked about it recently in a call about how the pendulum is, someone said, you know, it's actually your own energy reflected back at you. So this is what the work is. It's like, I look back at some of these pieces, I don't know their minds, you know, and I mean, I do remember when I look at them, but once they come through and, you know, and you're at a closure with it, I sort of almost learned from the work that I've done in the past to be
Yeah.
able to go, oh, wow, oh, yeah, I forgot I could do that. That's really cool. You know, do that again, but it will come through, yeah, as it needs to,
And I've
with the
really
oils and,
noticed, yeah, I've really noticed with looking at the other work that you've done, mine and everyone else will say that has their own is absolutely so different from any of the other work that you've done. And mine, for instance, when I touch it, you can feel the lines. It's like ley lines moving through, but also energy lines moving through. And the squirrel, just there's so many things in mine. It looks like there's this particular pattern which is like a swirl. And in Māori tradition, or over in New Zealand, that is called a kuru, which is actually all about new beginnings. And, you know, while I was away overseas, there was a part of me that was going into new beginnings. It was letting go of some old stuff in order for the new beginnings to come through. And that is interpreted on this piece. And, you know, the wildest thing about the work that you do is that I can place my hands. And I mean, yes, I work with energy every single day, but I work with energy between a human to a human or a spirit to a spirit. I can place my hand on this and I feel the same thing that I feel if I was placing my hand spirit to spirit. And so there is spirit energy in there. There is wild universal energy in there. And, you know, most people will stick something up on the wall and it'll just sit there and they'll be like, oh, that's nice. I have to work with this. There is so much for me to learn from what you do and what is filtered through you. You probably don't even associate it with it's what you do. For you, it's a filtered expression of spirit.
and and you're very much right. It's evolving, and as I take my own layers off, I start to see more and more of what it is, and I'm very much aware that we've just begun. Your drum was a, a baptism of fire, but it wasn't, because it was such a powerful experience, but it was like nothing I could have prepared for. And because you don't know what you don't know. So, and I'm really starting to own that more. And it's brought with it some stronger boundaries, because there is so much intensity with the work. And that's what you're working with your drum really highlighted for me. And I would love to give this example. I don't know if Tracy's shared this with you yet. I was going to pop it into our elemental vision group call.
Yeah.
This is a great example of how literal my guides are, and my connection, so that I don't miss things. And I'm working with Tracy to have a chat to my guides about this, because it's a little bit too like immediately literal. But Teresa, our lovely friend Teresa, I hope you don't mind me mentioning you by name.
Hey, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa. I had a photo shoot. It was totally unplanned. It was all put together within 4 or 5 days. I didn't know where we were going to go to the location. There was whatnot. Anybody who knows Teresa or doesn't know Teresa, she is an absolute master, master with horsemanship. Horses.
And she's an Amazonian goddess.
Yes, she is. there's so much, so many things. And Teresa and I will be working together, and we'd just connected within, I think, maybe within 3 hours or so before my photo shoot for that afternoon. Again, it was really impromptu. We didn't have a time planned or anything, and we had this really intense conversation. We were talking around this, the energy of just bringing the piece through, and Teresa's understands my process well enough to know that, as you did, it's that full intuition and that full creative license as such to just bring through. This is more like a reading, or it's a healing. It's a your energy, and whether you know it or not, you're actually doing this. It's not me. And so that's where it will be what it needs to be, and what you want to make it. And so Teresa really understands that, as you have, and everyone I've worked with. So I was overdue. I stayed on the call far too long because it was just so like engaging, and I didn't get done what I had to do for the photo shoot. And as we hung up the call, I'm like, this is fantastic, because yeah, okay, I'm a little bit behind, but I'm going to take the energy of this call and us into my photo shoot now. So that'll come through photos. And I'm like, this will come through that, so it was perfect. And I think within about 45 minutes of us getting to this park, this beautiful setup, lo and behold, the girl from across the street has come across to us and asked if we would like a horse for the photo shoot. And I'm
wow.
like, what? So within, and I'm not the most comfortable. I love horses. I'm not the most comfortable person around animals, or especially ones that are equivalent and bigger than me in height. So it probably wasn't something I would have actively called in. But yeah, so the horse made his way over, got called into that space. So made his way over and joined the photo shoot. So there's some really beautiful photos of, as Teresa has put it, the horse was holding space for me. So that's a really great example of how quickly the energies will connect, or let me know that we're working together, because we'd already had that connection of, okay, right, we've clicked in now, we'll sort the rest out. And so that Teresa's energies come in immediately within 3 or 4 hours and said, okay, we're on. So
that is wild. That is wild. And you're able to disconnect very quickly as well. I remember when my piece was finished, it was like, you need to come and get this now. And I was then sitting in resistance because I was terrified of the piece, because I had seen a sneak peek of it, and I knew that it was going to be powerful and it was going to be life-changing. And the discussions that we've had since then about what is actually in the power that is in this beautiful, angelic, divine, and divinely inspired piece, I haven't even touched on them yet. I've got to sit in ceremony myself with what you have created and had filtered down, so that I can really know. Because you said to me, this is like earthquake kind of stuff, and I'm like, wow. But you are able to go disconnect, and then you basically need to get it out of your hemisphere, so that you can go and move on to the next piece, I guess. You've got to have that closure around it. Is that part of your boundary stuff as well?
It is not as everything's a work in motion. I know we all say that. This is all very, very new for me, so I'm learning as I go. I'm finding that as far as the closure, the creation portal, what I call the creation portal, which is
beautiful,
the beginning and the end. So I just know. You just know. It's like when you're doing Reiki, you know when
the session's done. Yeah.
So but with your drum, for example, it wasn't. It let me know very quickly that we were done. I was like, oh, thank God. When you're
that's a ride.
No, it was such a I absolutely loved it, and it's a very tactile energy, that particular drum. But it wouldn't it wouldn't drain my space. Once it's done. But it really, like a horse at the gate, there's no point.
It needs to get to its owner.
Handing that. Yeah.
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 Ah,
So
amazing. So I am going to be putting up quite a few images of Melissa's work, and just you'll be able to marvel at the. Yeah, I agree. They are somatic creations. Like, ugh, they're incredible. So I need to ask you now. I asked this before we actually jumped on this call, or this podcast, and you said I'm just going to go off the cuff with it. Now that we've been able to have a bit of a talk about everything, what are your three non-negotiables? I ask this in every podcast. So, being no rules as to where they lie, what are your three non-negotiables?
three non-negotiables. Um, it's great actually because it makes me realize how many strong boundaries I have. Because there's a few of them. So I would definitely, as we're talking around the work, so a non-negotiable for me, if I'm working with someone or someone is working with me, it's really that understanding that the work that I do is almost exclusively for people, so commissioned, I guess, is what you would call it in the art world. But it's not to demand. So if working with me, non-negotiable is that it's an understanding that it's the energy that's going to control what comes through. It's not going to be something that I can do that work absolutely, but it's not what we call muggle work. It's not something that's not what this is. So that's that non-negotiable of giving that energy,
So
creative
if some,
license, I get.
yeah, so if I had have said to you, well, I really want eagles and little, because eagles are my favorite, but you would have been like, well, actually, let's just wait and see what comes through.
100%, 10 out of
Yeah,
10 times. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I can definitely work with a theme, and that's something that we'll talk about. Or we'll have I guess, an introduction of my process on my Instagram over the next week or so. But you can bring an intention through, but we can't control what color the sky's going to be. So
Yeah,
that's
because this was supposed to be black to start with, wasn't it?
initially, yeah, we thought it
Yeah.
was going to be black. Yeah. Um, there we go.
Yeah.
Other non-negotiable would be, I don't know how to put this without sounding like on the weekends, like with my time. I'm not a brat, but I won't do what I don't want to do. So I've always had complete control over my time, or I've raised kids and whatnot, but I'm not going to make plans to go to a barbecue 3 weeks in advance, and then if I feel like I'm in a creative flow, I need to have that freedom to be able to make decisions on where I choose to spend my energy. I won't be sort of
Amazing.
forced down paths I don't want to go. Another non-negotiable would be oh gosh, it's a non-negotiable. You have to make the bed. The second first thing you do is make the bed. Make the bed is the very first thing that I do, and open the curtains, because if the sun's out, the lights aren't on. So yeah,
Yeah. All right.
bit
And I love
eclectic.
that. There's quite a few coaches out there, and that's their non-negotiable every morning too. Make the bed. Just trying to think, mine is not made this morning. It's been a busy morning. So I love that. Now, of course, I also do with everybody. I will go and do a intuitive oil pull. So I'll just go up, say, Spirit, what is it that Melissa needs at this time? And I said to Melissa before, I'm not telling you, but you'll love it. So the oil that came up for you was cypress. And it's funny, while I was away overseas, I didn't put a lid on my cypress and I lost a whole bottle. My bag smells incredible, but cypress is all about motion, and it's also all about trusting and letting go of any control. And I thought to myself, this is how you have to do your work. You have to just let go of all control, trust, and allow this hand to do whatever it's basically guided to do, and be in that forward motion. I think too, I think Cypress has also come up for you to say, keep going, keep moving forward with this. With every lesson that you are learning with the work that you're doing, it's creating more and more powerful pieces. And so I know exactly why uh, Cypress has come today. And it's also about flow. And I'm guessing with your work too, once you get in the flow, it's like, I just have to keep that hand moving and allow whatever's needs to be filtered through to be translated onto the canvas, the drum, etc. So I love that Cypress
Very,
came
yeah.
up.
That's great, actually. You gave me that visual. It's there's saying more and more further I get through the work, and the more I'm allowing it to evolve and come through. So dance has become a really unconscious thing. I've danced as a kid all the way up to my mid-teens, but very much in that water sort of flow. So that's a little reminder for me to get that image when you were talking then, that's an important part of keeping that energy or flowing and moving while we're within those pieces. So thank you.
Yeah, because when I look at your pieces too, I see flow. It's because everything is, I guess, symmetrical, everything is beautiful line work. Everything just sort of, it's like a dance. Your work is like watching a dance happening, and it is just exquisite. That's,
Thank you.
right down to the fine details, down to those hand poked dots and there are thousands on this, on this.
Days worth.
Yeah, days and days worth, and how do you even put a price on it? It must be so difficult for you when you're doing a commission and you think of the hours of that, and you're probably loving it. But yeah, it would be so difficult to put a price on what you do. Always remembering, that it's so easy for us to step into, I guess the self-worth issues that come up. Is this actually good enough? It's not perfect, all of those things. But realize that this is a piece of magic and this is a piece of medicine that you're working with that is actually invaluable.
That's where I've really started to see that side of the work, really through the working with your drum. A lot more so is that's become really clear to me, is that where I maybe was holding myself back, particularly in those early days, was looking at it through the lens of as an artist, and that's where I was having that resistance of, I'm not an artist, I'm not. So understanding that the work is really just visual energy, really changes that, I guess, how comfortable you are with, exchange, on things that are really, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I could sit
And
there for days. Each piece takes months usually because, as you say, I do have a full-time Monday to Friday job, and I spend as much, if not more, time working on the pieces outside of work. But yeah, labor of love.
my wish is for you that this could be your full-time job. How incredible would that be? And I mean, it's got to put it out into the universe, and you just never know what can transpire. You just don't know who is watching you. And it will just take that one person, and it could be life changing for you. You're changing lives with the work that you're doing. And I'm just so grateful that you have turned up in my existence when you have and been able to do the beautiful and show me how to flow, how to be able to be in tune and be that channel. And I think there's definitely, just as you have felt that opening of the channel with this piece, so have I. We've been doing this together. We've been doing the dance together, which is just incredible. So I thank you, Melissa, for allowing yourself to share your gift with the world.
Thank you, Sammy. Oh, I can't even believe this is my life today, sitting here
Yeah.
doing a podcast for one. And it's just opening now. So I'm really grateful as always. And it's just such a journey. This piece I'm working on with Teresa now, I don't know after what's happened with the drum, I don't know where we go or what we're going to end
Skies
up
are
with.
the
So
limit.
I know,
Skies.
and you're also powerful. So working with that energy, and I love that visual. I think you put into words something that I couldn't quite capture when I'm talking about the what comes through is your song. That's your frequency, and that's exactly what that is. It's the tangible energy dancing to your vibration and frequency and
Ah,
forming those patterns like somatics do. It's just that we can bring it through and feel it, so it won't be quite so revolutionary in 5 years.
it sounds
Mm.
delicious. And you know what? I love it because I mean, working with vibrational tools. So, me working with with sound baths and those sort of things, where you get to feel something actually move through your body. And that's somatics as well. That's all energy moving through a material object, including me. And I just think that I'm like you. I get the shivers when I see sand moving because of sound. And who are we to actually judge that? Because every day we're breathing air. Can I see it? And we're working with the air element at the moment. Can I see it? No, I can't. But I know it's there because I'm breathing. So why would sound or why would vibration not be the same? And why would it not work through a body?
100%, yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
this is that you bring out my passion, Sammy. As soon as we start
Oh,
talking about that, it really,
oh,
really, that's where that passion is, because everything, everything in our visible world is created from structure and patterns, and it's just the natural order. Just because we can't
vibration and
see it.
energy. And oh my gosh, we could just talk for ages about this.
Oh yeah, I
It's
know.
so juicy.
Thank you. Well, thank you so
Oh,
much for having me on and guiding me through my very first podcast experience.
you, oh, you're brilliant. And I just want to say to all of the listeners out there that if you have felt anything move within you today, when you've listened to the story of how Melissa goes and channels in these beautiful pieces of vibrational art, then I'm going to have all of her handles in the biography that I place with this podcast today, this video today as well. And you can get in contact with her from there. And I know that this has definitely been a wild experience for both of us. And I'd really encourage others to go on this journey as well, because not only are you having this incredible journey of energetics, but then you're also at the end of it receiving something that is yours for life and that has a story and is not just a $10 print from Kmart. It's actually got love in it. It has energy in it. It has feelings in it. It has, oh, I could go on and on. So I would love you to contact her and to go and explore this more. Also, make sure that you subscribe below so that you can go and watch other people that are just incredible, just as Melissa is, and be inspired or feel the call to go and change your life with art, with whatever it is that we are showcasing on the day. But I thank you, Melissa. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak with you and for us to speak about your medicine today. I really appreciate you and I love you.